Hello, Aquarius. I hope that you're all doing well. We are here with a timeless reading. Before we get started with the reading, let's set the intention for this to be a space where everyone allows themselves to feel seen and validated, and ultimately for this to be a safe space and a healing space in alignment with the highest good. Maybe feeling a little bit impatient right now. I'm getting you be in a spot where you're like, I feel like my intuition is telling me something, but I'm still working out what exactly that is. It feels like a bit of a transitional or in-between space, or where you kind of know that something is incoming or working its way to you, and you're kind of at this point maybe decoding something, or just knowing that there's going to be a message coming in. Because I'm seeing this also be the ways that you're working with yourself and your psychic abilities. Will just make it kind of like an umbrella statement and call it that, which can have to do with your intuition, your connection with your higher mind, what those communications are saying, what you're meant to be doing on a deeper level, like on a more spiritual level as well, which can also impact and affect what you're doing in 3D too. But I'm seeing you be in the process of figuring out maybe like how your higher self communicates with you, but your guides are like, patient, patient, patient. This isn't all going to make sense immediately. It's going to be a process. Especially too because if you had a lot of information coming in at the same time, it would be overwhelming, and you'd be like, where am I even supposed to start with how I'm supposed to break any of this down? So that's why things come in like bits and pieces, but it may be annoying to you because you're like, I wish that I could understand all of it already, and that I could see the big picture here. But I'm just seeing your guides be like, just take your time, patient. You're right on time. You don't need to rush. You don't need to worry about not getting a message. If your guides need to communicate something with you, they will make sure that the message comes through. They will make sure that you see it. So you don't need to worry about any of that. You're not behind on anything. You don't need to worry about that either. Right now is just about you being one with the process. And also trusting that you're on track too, because you are. It's a lot too because like when your guides and when your higher self communicates with you, it's not like somebody's coming through like me here right now and just having this conversation with you for the most part. It comes in like signs and synchronicities, things that you're seeing repeated, like numbers. And each of us have different ways too that our guides communicate with us because we're receptive to different things, you know? Some people, you have the lights flashing on and off and they're not really going to notice. Another person may be sensitive to the slightest little dimming of the lights. Some people are more receptive to like a stream of consciousness. They start writing things down and just channeling whatever's coming through. Some people may use cards, may use divination. For some of us, it's more of a feeling that we get. It just depends on how your guides communicate with you, and you may be figuring that out. You and your guides are working out like what is the best way to get the communication through to you, where you're receptive to it, where you're open to it. So just know that if you're like, I feel like something's trying to make its way through and I don't completely understand the concept yet, or I feel like something's happening and I'm just not sure what exactly is happening, just know that it's part of the process. You are not behind. I keep getting this message again and again. You may have thought like you should have had something figured out by now or something should have made sense by now, but you're right on time. Your patience is going to pay off, I'm seeing. I'm seeing you're going to be very, very happy about being patient too with this process. Okay, so this is leading to a new chapter for you. To have temperance too, this means you are not forcing anything. If something is not working and you feel like you're banging into a wall, you pause and you're like, do I need to wait until this wall lifts or do I need to find a way around it? Because I'm not going to just make it through going like this. So that means picking up on cues and being receptive, because sometimes your ego is like, come on, will, follow me, like your willpower, follow me in this direction. And then your higher self is like, let's get our willpower aligned with the flow of things. And if we're trying to go down this route and it's not working, it's because you're being redirected. So what I'm seeing is that you being patient and you taking your time and trusting the process and being one with the process. And knowing that the process is the journey. I'm seeing there's going to be something that you're going to be like, I'm so glad that I didn't give up on this. I'm so glad that I was patient with the process. I'm so glad that I took the time that I needed. Also, know too, you're on your own path, you're on your own time frame. You're never not on time. That's also something to remember as well. You're always right on time for your path. So what I'm seeing is that, yeah, there could have been something that was testing your patience, right? I just feel like that's a character trait of Aquarius. Like, we can be frustrated because it's always about understanding like the bigger picture too, right? So when that's not completely coming into focus, it can be frustrating, because Aquarius is very good at connecting the dots. And there may have been some dots that were missing, so you couldn't connect everything yet. But I'm seeing your patience is very much going to pay off. I'm seeing this is going to feel like a big deal to you. And I'm seeing that it's leading to a brand new chapter for you, which is what's being reflected on now, sort of where things are going. All right. Some of you, this has to do with a move. It can also do with traveling. It can also be with an obstacle that you've been facing that's been feeling quite difficult, that you are now getting to the point of traversing. I'm seeing things end on an extremely happy note for you to have the Chariot and the Ten of Cups. So this has to do with a move that you're making, okay? All right. I'm seeing that the emotional process has been a big one through this for you. So even though you may be, I mean, there's a pentacle here, so there's definitely physical stuff that you're going through, but I'm seeing this was more than anything a process that was like a very emotional process for you, or one where that really came up a lot for you throughout this. If you tried to force this situation, things would not end on this no. I'm getting that for sure. So that's why you being patient and really respecting the flow and respecting the process and knowing that's aligned with your higher path. That's how things end on this note that you feel very, very happy with. Because I'm seeing too that, right, sometimes our ego is like, it needs to work out like this and like that, and that's how I'm going to get to what I want. And I'm seeing the way that your guides have been guiding you through this. It's like, this may not make sense now, or like you may not understand why that person isn't picking up the phone now and why you need to call them Thursday instead of Tuesday when you were planning to talk to them on Tuesday. It's going to work out better if you do it on Thursday, okay? You know, it's just little things like this that your ego, in order to organize, because the ego has a purpose, right? It has a function. The ego's like, it's going to happen like this, this, and this is going to be planned out like that. And it's very important. And this is also a thing that can be challenging for Aquarius placements, okay? Because Aquarius is a fixed sign. So it's like, when I have that idea in my head and I have that blueprint of how it's going to go, I want to stick to that, because that's what I solidified in my head. And working with your higher self and working with your guides, it's like, it's okay that you have that, but you also need to be flexible when it's not working out in that way, because we can get you to take like a higher route where there are going to be shortcuts and better ways for you to go. So you may think it needs to work out like this and then that's going to happen. And they're like, if you'll be flexible here and not push that and tune in and say, oh, it's not working like that, I'm gonna have to find an alternate way. When you find that alternate way, it ends up being faster and more effective. And that's why they're like, let's redirect you over here. Meanwhile, if you hadn't been open to that, you could have been trying to force something and it would have been much more difficult to do it that way. And your guides knew that, but how could you have known that? You just had to listen to the guidance and do it like one foot in front of the other and take those steps, even though you were not at a point where you could see the bigger picture of things. It was just on site, taking the guidance that you needed to at the time when it came through, even though you couldn't see from the higher dimensions that your guides were directing you from. It's all about trust. Trust with yourself, trust with your team. That they're guiding you in a way that's going to make things easier for you. And it's going to be in alignment with your highest good. Flexibility. All right. I'm seeing this be a really, really major completion for you. This feels like you're graduating from something that's been like a very, very challenging cycle for you. There's also recognition here at this point of what you have developed within yourself and knowing how to utilize certain gifts that you have too. When it comes to your creative abilities and when it comes to your manifesting abilities, to speak things into fruition. I'm seeing something really, really, something that feels like a big deal that is going to be materializing if it has not already. For some of you, this has already happened. Or you know that it's about to happen. Like it's been confirmed, the actual event just hasn't taken place yet. For some of you, you're in the process of this. I'm definitely getting some people splayed in different segments of the timeline for this. But to have the world, which is Saturn, and to have the magician, which is Mercury, this is you being very mindful of your thoughts, of your words, of what you're speaking out, especially as far as what you're trying to create, and really staying in that vibration on that train of thought until this thing fully comes to fruition. And this is about being very, very mindful too of what you're manifesting. And I'm seeing something almost be surprising to you that you were able to do something. Only because of the veil. Because, you know, the veil comes down and it has you thinking that you're not really the magician, and then you start actively manifesting and you see and creating and you see things happen and you're like, wow, I really have the power to be able to do this, to make this happen. But to have Saturn here, this was not easy for you. Saturn is kind of like you and everybody else, you're running a race and you have a 20-pound vest on and nobody else does. It can feel kind of like that. But the beautiful thing about Saturn is that when it comes to this manifestation of yours, when it comes to this thing that you've been trying to create and have materialize within your life, which I'm seeing is coming down. I'm seeing this thing materialize physically for you. This thing, I'm seeing that having Saturn here, it did make it more challenging and difficult, and it did slow it for you. It would have felt like it slowed down the process. Okay, in the grand scheme of things, everything happened in the timing it was supposed to, but Saturn moves very, very slowly, and so to you on Earth, the effect like magnetically that you would have felt is things happening in a very slow way, like things were in slow motion even as you were making this happen, like attempting to make this happen. Okay, and I'm seeing that you sticking with this and being like, you know what, I want to make it happen, I'll stick with it as long as I need to, and I'm gonna just keep working towards this goal, because Saturn asks consistency of us and showing up regularly and not cutting corners, doing things the right way. It's about having integrity with what we're doing and putting in the hard work. And I'm seeing just something like an absolutely perfect manifestation materializing here for you, where you're like, I created something so wonderful and amazing. And this thing is now here in front of me, and I'm seeing what the point of all of that hard work was that I put in. So this feels like a moment where you're feeling very, very accomplished, very accomplished. And it feels too like it's validating how capable you are as well. But because something took a really long time, you could have been questioning that. Because Saturn can also bring a lot of doubt as well. And Saturn can have like a depressing effect as well. And to have it next to the Magician here, this Mercury is your mind too. So at times you could have been like, it could have been like sucking the color out of things, you know, as you're trying to move through this, and you're like, I don't know if I have the energy to keep going here, you know. You could have like fallen into like sadness. You could have been feeling kind of depressed, you know. You could have been feeling some anxiety too. You could have like not really been feeling much, you know. This could have been something that happened once in a while as you went through this process of like, am I really gonna make it there? But here you are, persistent. This feels like the hardest course that you've been put through. Like stuff that's really taken you thinking outside of the box, flexibility, pivoting. I am seeing too that it could have felt like there was a bit of a, you could have felt tethered to something that only let you go so far, and now I'm seeing that kind of coming off. So you're gonna have more, I'm seeing like a dog that had been chained before, and so there was only a certain like circumference that they could move around, and now I'm seeing that be taken off, so you can kind of like run free now. It almost felt like you were put through this very, I don't even want to call it a beginner's course, but this feels like something really big that you've been manifesting within your life. And it seems like you were put in like the hardest version of this cycle of manifestation, but now that you have it under your belt, it's like you got the hardest part out of the way. I'm seeing things are going to happen much, much faster after this. Like once you see this thing materialize that you've been working for, that's associated with this new chapter for you, I'm seeing things take off after that. And you don't have to be, whereas before you needed to be like patient and persistent and had to really do like all of this waiting and just showing up every day, like in and out, and you know, all of that whole process that could have felt a bit redundant at a point. Now that this thing manifests, I'm seeing things are gonna happen much faster for you. Like I'm seeing there's no more needing to be held back anymore. And there's even more of a sense of power and vigor. Because I'm also seeing that this process, in the beginning, there could have been some like self-doubt, and especially going through the process, because Saturn, again, can instill doubt, right? So it's like, are you really able to manifest this? Is it really gonna happen? Do you really believe it? And like contrary to basically everything you're being seen on the outside, you still have to hold that light within and be like, it is gonna happen. I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna take the steps. I'm gonna listen to my guidance. I trust, I know. It has already happened, you know, and like having that feeling within you. So now I'm seeing you get to this point where this thing materializes for you, right, that you've been working towards. And then I'm seeing after that, it like bolsters your confidence. So I'm seeing that you're actually going to be manifesting at a much faster pace even than you had been before. Because I'm seeing this process, this first one, even though you've manifested other things within your life, it's like this particular process, I'm seeing it was very slow, and it's a very big manifestation. Like it's a very, like, that was the chapter before and this is the chapter now. Like I'm seeing there be a very stark separation between the two of these, where before you could have felt like you were sort of, you know, when you're in water that's like waist high and you're trying to run through it and it kind of feels like you're moving in slow motion? That's kind of the effect of Saturn. You know, you feel like you're moving through some type of like element that's sort of slowing you down. I'm getting, again, this comes back to like the magnetic grid that's associated with Saturn. Anyway, now that you're moving out of that, I'm seeing things are really going to pick up the pace too. Also, too, because Mercury moves very quickly as well. Like, Mercury wants to speed around like lightning. So yeah, it seems kind of like your guides had you go through something in a very like difficult and challenging way, so you learned all of the ins and outs of it, so now you can do it like a pro. I'm seeing it be like that. So yeah, you got all of the like hard parts out of the way, all of the challenging parts, all of the difficult parts. So now I'm seeing something is going to feel like a breeze. Like the next time you try to manifest something, I'm seeing it's going to be a much quicker process for you. There's going to be more thinking on your feet rather than feeling that energy of like waiting around for other things to fall into place. Because you could have even felt like, hey, I'm ready for this to happen, and you're still waiting for like sort of the dimension that you're in to sort of catch up with where you are. Now I'm seeing it's going to be more aligned with, you're trying to manifest this thing, things are going to fall into place faster. There's also, it seems there's like a faster relay between how you're feeling and what you're thinking as well. So this is something that also got you in touch with the feeling function too, which has to do as well with your intuition. It seems too like your guides were like, if you want this, you're gonna have to show up if this is really worth it to you, and that's also why this took so long too. It kind of feels like sort of proving yourself to yourself. And it also means too that within this, it's been informing you of what's going to satisfy you on a deeper level, meaning like what do you really want versus what's something more trivial that may not be worth it to you to use your energy on that. So this is also helping you with your discernment as well. That's what part of this process was about. It feels too like something is being reactivated for you as well. Yeah, this does feel like things being worked out in a way where there's definitely a sentiment of balancing. Okay, so this cycle has taken very, very long. For some of you, this was like a 2 to 3 year cycle, I'm seeing. For some of you, it can be longer than that. For some of you, it can be shorter, but I'm definitely getting like an average of 2 to 3 years. This cycle has been. Some of you didn't realize when it started though, because it may not have started in a concrete thought, but like subconsciously it started 2 to 3 years ago. And at some point along the way, it became like a conscious, concrete thought. But the manifestation process actually started before that. Okay, so patience pays off. I'm seeing a cycle be completed here. This means that you have gotten to the finish line. I'm seeing this feel like a very big and important moment for you, especially as a creator. Seeing something that was in here, be reflected to you physically. And I'm seeing too, you just like going off of your gut and moving in that way really helps you to get things going. So once this thing sort of materializes for you in a more tangible way, I'm seeing you can move very, very quickly, and that's actually what's being suggested for you. But it's almost like you needed to, it's like you're waiting at that red light and it feels like it's red forever, and then I'm seeing it turn green, and then I'm seeing you just take off, and I'm seeing the movement be at a very fast pace. But everything up until that point kind of felt like slow motion for you. It was like this thing happened, this cycle was completed, there was this moment where you were like, wow, I think I really did this, and then you see this thing in front of you. Now I'm seeing you move very quickly, and I'm seeing at that point, there's like this very, very deep resonance within you where you kind of feel like you waited for... It's kind of like you were putting in and putting in and putting in and waiting to see what it was going to give back to you. And this is that moment of reciprocity. Like, this is that exchange that you've been waiting for. This is that thing appearing for you. But yeah, I'm seeing like definitely a really deep resonance within you. To have the Chariot and the Queen of Cups and the Ten of Cups up there, this is something within you that just feels very... like bliss to you in a way, like deeply, deeply satisfying, something that you wanted to experience, and something that really means a lot to you internally. So even though there's something external that's materializing, this meant so much to you, it means so much to you in the heart space. I'm looking at Sagittarius, Saturn, Mercury, and Cancer. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everybody for connecting. Thank you for tuning in. I'm wishing everybody love and light and healing, and I hope to catch you guys next time.